Hello, my name is Nick Lyons. Welcome to my presentation on the economic considerations for advancement through a progressive control pathway, cost-benefit analysis of FMD control in Punjab province, Pakistan. And this project was a collaboration between the University of Liverpool and the Food and Agriculture Organization office based in Pakistan. So just to give a brief background, so agriculture and livestock are important parts of the economy in Pakistan. And Punjab is the most populous province for both people and livestock. The whole of Pakistan, including Punjab, is considered endemic for FMD, and this is a priority disease and a major cause of production loss, holding back potential exports. So in 2015, Pakistan was assigned to PCP stage 2, which is all about reducing the impact of FMD. Since about 2018, large efforts have been made in Punjab province to improve disease control, with a large uptake in vaccination and a reduced number of reported outbreaks. The key question now for Punjab province is, well, is it worth progressing to PCP stage 3 in a zone within it? And PCP stage 3 is quite different to stage 2. And there's different things to consider. So in stage 2, it's all about reducing the impact. In stage 3, it's about reducing the viral circulation. So to do this, it has to be a big increase in or enhanced disease control measures and surveillance. And you're probably not going to see the benefits in terms of further reduced disease impact, maybe a bit, but actually really those impacts you should be seeing in stage 2. So in stage 3, really, it's the long-term view to progress disease freedom, and that's what we considered in this project. So this is a map of Pakistan showing the different provinces, and Punjab province is highlighted here. And this is the area, Bahawalpur division, which is where the proposed zone was due to take place. So I just wanted to show you some of the merits of choosing this area for a zone. So first of all, there is a large river called the Sutlej River along one of the borders, and this is meant to be quite it's a wide river and is quite an effective geographical barrier. Outside this, there would be a 10 to 20 kilometre buffer zone. And on the other side of the proposed zone is a high security fence on the border of India. And there's a desert region, the Kholistan Desert, that runs alongside this. There's one area which would need attention, where there's no geographical boundaries on the border with Sindh province. So in terms of refining the question further for this project, so what the main question is, well, based on averted production losses and treatment costs alone, is progression to PCP stage 3 and beyond worth it? Or must there be increased value in the exports to justify the investment? So to do this, to approach this question, we did a cost benefit analysis. And for our baseline scenario, there was no disease control strategy, and FMD was just allowed to circulate as per previous reports from this proposed zone. The intervention was to establish this single zone and to enter PCP stage 3 over a 2-year period, which would be aggressively implemented so that the zone could apply for OA endorsement of the control program and into stage 4 by the end of 2025, and then apply for an OAE declared freedom with vaccination. And the cost benefit analysis was conducted over a 20-year period using a discount rate of between 3 and 4%. So as I've mentioned, so in terms of the benefits, the thing we were looking at was about reduced impact and about, well, you've got all these different outbreaks that are taking place, and it's caused production losses and there's costs in terms of treatment. Well, if you get rid of those outbreaks and you get benefits in terms of averted production losses and averted treatment costs. And this happens across all the different systems that are present, that I've listed here. So what we've assumed with implementing this control strategy is there would be a linear decline in outbreak numbers during this time period. And that would give you your benefits that were considered in the analysis. In terms of the costs of the intervention, well, there's various different aspects that are considered. I don't have time to go into now, but these are typical control measures that would be used for a country that goes into PCP stage 3 in terms using mass vaccination, but just focusing on cattle and buffalo, which is important to emphasize, and various other aspects based on discussions in Pakistan over what is needed. So to estimate the different benefits on the production systems present, there were two general models that were created, which essentially compared herds with and without disease to estimate what the impact on production was. So we had two models. One we're calling a mixed system model, which estimated milk production, changes in offtake rates, changes in herd value, and incorporated abortions. And the other model was a beef feedlot model, which incorporated case fatality, distress sales, and prolonged finishing times, and reduced finishing value. And both of these models had stochastic and deterministic elements and incorporated treatment costs for FMD cases. So this here is just the general outline of the mixed system model, where there are various age sex compartments on the farm to estimate these, the different offtakes, and also incorporating different aspects of fertility, which is a novel part of this approach, because fertility is often not considered. So these models were run over a 5-year period. And one of the things that we also estimated was the change in herd value. So this isn't a cash item, but it's a change in capital value of the herd, which we feel is important to recognize when you're looking at longer term impacts. So not just focusing on milk losses or treatment costs, which is often the case with when looking at the impact of FMD. The beef feedlot model was a relatively simple model, where essentially you have the FMD outbreak was you had mortality of some of the animals, but actually one of the things that we tried to incorporate was the fact that you had prolonged finishing times for animals on the feedlot, and also there was some farms would use distress sales, which would have animals of a lower value. So the data sources, so we looked into the literature, but also we had an expert opinion workshop that was run in Islamabad in February of this year. And we also had some follow-up with some beef feedlot farms, and also further discussion on desert farming systems as well. So going straight to the results. So this table has the different impacts that were estimated. So remember, these are for the different production systems, and these are discounted costs, and these are estimated over a 5-year period. And the thing to really emphasize was, obviously they're very variable depending on the different production system, but the corporate farms, the costs were really quite high, and so higher than previous estimates. But you need to bear in mind that these corporate dairy farms are quite large. The median size is about 1,500 cattle. So perhaps it's not so surprising that when you have these sorts of farms, that the impact is so high when you're looking over a longer time period. And actually most of the costs were actually in changes in the herd value. So these are long-term costs, not short-term costs. So when we look at the overall benefits for the cost benefit analysis, so the benefits in the different, in terms of averted production and treatment costs, was estimated at about 26 million US dollars a year. So in terms of the costs of the program, so these are the non-discounted costs, and you can see that most of the costs was due to vaccination and post-vaccination monitoring, but also the sanitary measures. So that was having an ID system in place, and also all the different quarantine stations around the outside. And this was estimated to cost about 25 or just over 25 million US dollars a year. So in terms of the overall results, so the benefit cost ratio is estimated to be just over 1. And so 1 would be the cutoff for what's considered beneficial. However, there's a this was very wide ranging, and there's a lot of uncertainty over this estimate. So to conclude, based on the averted production losses and treatment costs alone, progression to PCP stage 3 and beyond may be economically viable, but there's a large uncertainty in this estimate. And this is because we were relying a lot on expert opinion, and collection of field data would be beneficial for the study. In particular on the desert livestock farms, very little is known about the impact of FMD, and so a lot of uncertainty was present there because of that. And also the disease control strategy needs to be finalised, and there's various aspects that need to be considered in that regard. In particular, focusing on whether small ruminants need to be vaccinated, which could be a large extra cost if that's required. So the production losses estimated in the study are a lot higher than previous estimates, but they do consider longer term losses and impacts through fertility and changes in herd structure. There are various limitations to the approach, like I just mentioned with the small ruminants. But we also assumed that once the zone was free, there would be no further outbreaks. And obviously, if there were, that would be an extra cost. But there are extra benefits that weren't quantified. So, for example, the development in the veterinary services would lead to better control of other diseases, and it's difficult to quantify that benefit, but it needs to be borne in mind when considering the results. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and this is just to acknowledge all the different people that contributed. Thank you, and I'll happily take any questions on the presentation.